Hello everyone, Aquaclef here. With Steam Deck having brought so many new sets of eyes to this product category, more and more people are realizing that there are other options that can warrant a jump in price for better performance and features. With the new year comes a whole lot of options for awesome mini PCs. If you landed on this video, chances are you do wonder which device to go for. So grab some snacks and some drinks as this video is meaty. We'll break them down and hopefully know better which device is for who. A quick intro and off we go. Quick heads up, I've been sleep deprived thanks to holiday family parties, so please forgive my small beady eyes. Oh, and Merry belated Christmas? Is that a thing? We'll use this comprehensive guide, which I'll be making available in the video detail box below. So let's start with the poster child, Steam Deck. The deck has two things that no one can really compete with right now. The first being the value proposition. The 400 option in particular, that is if you are comfortable changing the drive yourself. Though the value proposition is not as appealing with the 512 model, the fact still remains that no other device at this point in time offers a better price to performance ratio. The CPU is fairly behind versus other devices on this list, and the GPU is anywhere between 25 to 30% less in performance. This custom architecture APU is quite capable, especially after tweaking the resolution and adjusting the target frame rate. For our LPDDR5, we have 16 GB clocked at 6400 MHz, as will every other model, though sometimes offering 32 GB configuration. When it comes to value, some things got to give, and for the deck, the obvious one is its panel. It uses an IPS of 1280 by 800, 7-inch, giving us 215 ppi. With its 16 by 10 portrait aspect ratio, it's been known to not offer the best color reproduction, and you should know, if going with the 512 GB, that an etch panel will further cause that. An etch screen is effectively a matte screen named differently, and what a matte screen does is prevent light from bouncing on the panel and instead diffuses it. But it does from every direction, meaning that the light coming from underneath the glass also loses brightness and color vibrancy. The battery is the smallest in our listing, though because of the custom architecture, Valve's components are particularly well tweaked to provide good power performance. The charge speed is limited to 45 watt, not bad, not exceptional. It weighs 669 grams and uses ALPS sticks. Hall sensors can be upgraded by buying the Goalie Kit accessory, something I've done myself. In fact, I have a YouTube short on it. The triggers are analog, enabling progression values in games that makes use of them, such as racing games. The vibrations are close to non-existent, as it uses touchpad haptic motors to double down as rumble motors. It's better than nothing, but is also close to nothing in sensation. I'm big on rumble, so I like more punch, but that's a personal preference. One of its most undervalued advantages is, in my opinion, the audio. It is tweaked to perfection. This device has the best audio I've heard in any handheld thus far, and truth be told, I really hope competitors make the notion of that and start improving audio quality. More often than not, the sound is left to be desired, but not on the deck. It'll blast a tune like no other, and it'll give you so much depth to the game sound that you didn't think was possible in this form factor. It has a 6-axis gyroscope, and about that specifically, I do not believe that Valve puts a better gyroscope in their devices per se. However, they have a huge edge in software. I don't know of any device that implements gyroscope as well as Valve and Nintendo. Something to keep in mind if you are into gyro aiming at all. The second dominating aspect of the Steam Deck is most definitely game inputs. Everything you'd expect is there, and then adds 4 paddles which can be customized to use as you see fit, 2 trackpads which are clickable, effectively transforming them into buttons, and stick caps that are conductive that have interesting use, such as enabling gyroscope only when touched. eGPUs are not officially supported on it. There is a way around that, the final result being more proof of concept than a usable long-term solution. The IOs are a letdown on this device, having just one USB-C. Thankfully, there is a micro SD slot, and in a 3.5mm headset with microphone support. It supports Bluetooth 5.0 and Wi-Fi 5. And as extras with this device, we have, well, the edge screen specific to the 512GB model. And Valve includes a pretty nice case with every single deck. Last but not least, Valve is a huge company, so the level of support both in updates but also after sale service is night and day versus anybody else. And that's not all. Communities surrounding that device are easily found, which is of great importance as the deck specifically focuses on an OS that can be quite foreign to many. Tweaking is not mandatory on the deck, but not doing so is honestly doing yourself a disservice. So not only will you always find someone willing to help, you'll end up finding far more if you allow yourself to. One more thing about this handheld PC is it is obviously a market penetrator or disruptor as you see fit. What this means in a nutshell is Valve sells these devices at low margins or maybe even at loss, especially with the $400 model. Thankfully, they can recoup by selling games. I couldn't stress this enough. Valve gives its users a refreshing level of flexibility. You as the end user are not locked to a closed source operating system like you are on consoles from Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, and Meta. Just as you are free to explore this device, Valve understandably prefers if you shop with them exclusively. The way to do this is to tie your gamepad inputs on the device to Steam, the software running. This is more than fair, but be aware that it does deter your experience if you don't have a keyboard and or mouse connected. If you can't go wireless, you'll need a hub, as just one USB-C is not enough. A dock then kind of becomes a necessity. You can operate the deck without needing all that, but believe me when I say it's not going to be as smooth, especially outside of big picture mode. If you are not a PC person, this is something that you should know. In many ways, it'll pull you into the PC environment whether you want it or not. So to summarize, it is a device that requires much more time invested into tweaking to unleash its full potential. Give it the love it needs though, and it can hold up very easily to any other device on this list. Moving on, next on this list is GPD's Win Max 2. Now, we double in price, but are also looking at a much different device. Like the Steam Deck, it is available now, so you wouldn't have to wait for weeks before having it. Depending on configurations, the price ranges from $1,050 to $1,250 if ordered directly from GPD on Indiegogo's in demand, that is as long as quantities last. The CPU and GPU, which every other device on this list will have, is the Ryzen 6800U and Radeon 680M respectively. The CPU is about 2 generations ahead of the Steam Deck, so it greatly surpasses it, especially when looking at emulators. For gaming in general, the CPU will not have as great an impact as the GPU, which, as quickly mentioned earlier, is about 25 to 30% stronger than what you find on the deck. So it does give you a higher fidelity, be it used for FPS, resolution, or however you wish to tweak your experiences. RAM is the same, but contrary to the deck, they have 32GB variations. Hard to justify for gaming, but for productivity, it's almost a must-have. Storage varies from 512GB to 2TB depending on the configuration. It has a 16:10 landscape in contrast to most others that are portrait. That's a hot topic. They both have benefits in my honest opinion, but I will say this much. For these devices, many if not most will favor a landscape panel, as it gives you superior compatibility with games, specifically retro PC ones, that can be run without conflict or complications, making this a fairly major advantage. The panel is an IPS 2560 by 1600, so double the resolution of the deck at 10.1 inch for a total of 299 ppi. However, there's a bit of a catch. Due to hardware limitations, it is unlikely that you'll be playing games natively at that resolution. You might with some indie titles, but for anything mainstream reasonably recent, 800p to 1200p is more likely, and that is paired with upscaling technologies such as FSR. From that angle, it's more realistic to think of the effective PPI as being 224. I find this put things in perspective. It is much closer to a Steam Deck, not in terms of performance, but in terms of visual sharpness, that which is also on a much greater panel in size, which is effectively the real advantage, that is, if it is something you enjoy. The battery is the biggest on this list at 67 watt hour, thankfully, as it drives more components than most, being effectively a laptop. Up to 100 watt supercharge, getting you from 0 to 50 in little over 20 minutes with the right power brick, which so happens to be supplied with it. While it will give you similar durability when driving to its maximum as other devices on this list, you do have more flexibility on how to manage your battery under light load. The sleep mode is one area where this device is also greatly superior in my personal experience. I can have it unplugged for a week and come back to no more than 20 to 25% loss in battery, which is phenomenal. It is the heaviest on our list at 1,005 grams. Now, unpopular opinion, I find it extremely comfortable to hold for long durations. Despite that, I did still test the grip. The video is in my channel, and I must say, though I do not require one, it does make the device more comfortable to hold. Analogs found in this device are Hall sensor types, providing greater precision and reduced risks of drift and misreads. As for the triggers, they are analog. The Win Max 2 does have rumble motors that can be shut completely or adjusted to your liking. Same with the gyroscope, but as we mentioned earlier, the software implementation is really what can be holding it back versus the Steam Deck. It's actually gotten better lately, but better not to expect the same level of compatibility. This device has 4 speaker ports and a microphone on the body. It does give off full sound in terms of directionality. The highs are crisp and clear, but the lows are non-existent, and the overall sound profile simply isn't balanced. In other words, the speakers are no match to Valve's Handheld. However, they can be tweaked, and if you do, it greatly narrows the gap in sound signature. I made a video on my channel covering that very subject and how to go about it based on a specific GPD Devices Discord user. I strongly recommend bookmarking it if you have any intentions of picking up that device. GPD's reputation precedes them to have the best mouse mode implementation, something I am happy to spread, as I totally agree. Not only is it great, but they've also improved on it. It's a little switch that transforms your gamepad inputs into a mouse plus specific keyboard combinations. Using it on the fly is amazing, and because it counts as a physical implemented device, administrator mode on Windows recognizes it and therefore will never stop these from working, as it does on the deck in comparison. And they now include software, albeit not looking refined, that lets you customize some of the keys and whatnot. Now, similar to the deck's paddle, this device has 2 customizable buttons at the back. It is eGPU compatible thanks to the USB 4 protocol. As such, you can dock the Win Max 2 and transform it into a more capable gaming PC that will, of course, require extra investment, but is doable. In fact, the Win Max 2 is the only device on this list with a second NVMe, which theoretically offers more PCI lanes. So this means that you could enable even better eGPU performance. However, please know that this is very DIY territory, as aftermarket solutions are based around USB-C throughput. This device is the I/O king on our list thanks to the following: a 3.5mm headset with microphone support, an SD UHS-2 card reader, and a microSD UHS-1 card reader. Photographs and videographers will know why that is huge. 3 USB-A's, 2 USB-C's, and an HDMI 2.1. You heard me right, 2.1. Allows 4K 120 FPS output, which I've tested successfully. It supports Bluetooth 5.2, Wi-Fi 6, and technically Wi-Fi 6E, though it isn't listed. GPD offers an optional 4G modem that is sold separately. It has a backlit keyboard, a webcam, a fingerprint reader, a clickable mouse trackpad. It has magnet shields, and the panel supports 4096 sensitivity pressure point active pen technology. And to top it all off, it has a BIOS reset pinhole if ever stuck. Look, it doesn't get all that complicated. This device puts some laptops to shame. Simple as that. And the asking price for everything it provides is out of this world. However, we're not gonna let it off that easy, as it is presented as a gaming device above all else. In that sense, it is not the best value from a price to performance perspective. I will say this much: if you are a no compromise kind of person, specifically when it comes to quality of life features, this device is the best in the entire list. In fact, This device is one of the best I've seen ever, period. It rivals top tier tablets like iPads and Samsung Galaxy Tab devices in terms of just how versatile these can be, but it does so using Windows OS. You can be gaming while streaming to Twitch on this device. You can make video editing on the fly with this device. You can write an essay with this device, but you can also have top tier handheld gaming fidelity with this device. The emulator capabilities on this chip are also top tier, giving you Nintendo Switch and PS3 level emulation. So yeah, it's in a category of its own. Now for the next device, the GPD Win 4, I must say I have every reason to believe that this device is, in my opinion, the only other device in this entire list that I am openly calling a market disruptor. Unfortunately, GPD doesn't sell software to make up for low margins, and I don't know what margins they are getting on this device, but one thing is for sure, this is the kind of device that puts you on the radar. I believe in a few weeks, the GPD Win 4 will be impossible to ignore because it will have so many people talking about it. Let's start with the price. During the Indiegogo campaign, you are looking at $800 to $1,200 US depending on the configuration. At $800, you get the same CPU and GPU as the Win Max 2 with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes, making this only $150 US more than the most expensive Steam Deck. You get a 1080p landscape panel at 6-inch, that's a 368 ppi. Let that sink in, 368 ppi. Guys, size and resolution are not everything. The sharpness of this panel will be absolutely phenomenal, and because it is a 1080p, you are effectively gaining in performance versus a 1200p panel. And let's be honest, the largest verticality that a 1200p panel gives you is not worth the 10%-ish that you have to spend to drive those pixels, in my opinion. But not only that, as per the latest report from Taki, Fox, and ETA Prime, the panel is capable of 75 Hz, being effectively the first ever PC handheld to drive more than 60 Hz. Of course, not every scenario will take advantage of it, but for PC streaming, indie titles, and retro games, it'll be amazing to have. It has a 45.62 watt-hour battery, being smaller than the Win Max 2, but just like it supports 100 watt supercharging. It has the lightest weight at 598 grams. Now, one hot take is the analogs, as it was changed from Hall sensors to ALPS, but it has been confirmed by GPD that Hall sensors will be available aftermarket for users wishing to upgrade. We will be doing that on this channel for sure. The triggers are analog, the vibration motors are confirmed to be present. It has a microphone in the body and 2 speakers, which are being reported to be an improvement over the Win Max 2 and closer in terms of performance to the Steam Deck. I am most excited to experience the speakers firsthand. I wouldn't call myself an audiophile, but I do attribute great importance to sound to carry the experiences throughout, and I prefer not relying on headphones or earbuds to do that. There's something special about having sound breathe in an open space. It has a gyroscope, which, just like before, would most likely be held back by software. If anything, this means it could greatly improve over time. It sports the same mouse mode, gamepad mode switch. It has overall great IOs with a 3.5mm headset with microphone, a microSD UHS-1 reader, a 3.2 Gen USB-A and 2 USB-Cs, one at the bottom and one at the top. It is compatible with many types of docks, but also fully compatible with external GPUs. All the same, it has a Bluetooth 5.2 and Wi-Fi 6E support. If you don't already know, it has a slider screen and a backlit dome switch keyboard beneath it. This device is mesmerizing. And tucked at the bottom right of the device, that little black square is a mini trackpad that can be used as a mouse. I believe it also clicks. The bottom left is a fingerprint reader. It has a BIOS reset pinhole, and the L1 and R1 has subtle RGB accents. This device looks like a supersized PS Vita, and really, it is undeniable that out of every other PC handheld, this is the most portable one. Logically, the only one capable of fitting in a jeans pocket. But what I like is that despite being the most portable one, it actually does so without sacrificing a whole lot of quality of life features. As I've said in the beginning, I strongly believe this device to be the only other market disruptor. And I believe that this will put GPD on the map more than ever before. With this being the last GPD device on this list, we now move to another company that shouldn't be ignored, AYANEO. However, one thing in particular with this campaign is that it has two different devices. Starting with the AYANEO Geek, the price varies from $850 to $1,370 during the IGG campaign. It has the same CPU GPU configuration as GPD's, the same LPDDR5 with also 16 to 32 gigs depending on the configuration. The panel on the Geek varies based off of the model. The Fantasy Black is 800p 7-inch with 215 ppi, while the Crystal Purple is 1200p 7-inch at 323 ppi. The ratio is 16 by 10 portrait, and batteries come at 50.25 watt hour and supports 100 watts supercharge. The weight varies slightly between both colors according to their campaign, varying from 665 grams to 685 grams, which is about on par with the Steam Deck's weight. At this point in time, both devices use Hall sensor sticks and Hall sensor triggers. Now, it bears the same benefits, namely more precision, fewer risks of misreads, and improved durability over time, but also it is said that the magnets can be magnetized over time whenever the pull force becomes too weak after a couple of years. The second most obvious change between devices and the campaign is rumble features. The Geek has regular rumble motors. It uses dual speakers with dual mic on the body. It also has a 6-axis gyroscope, but more on that specifically when we'll be talking about the AYANEO 2. It has next to its shoulders 2 extra buttons that are customizable, so LC and RC. And one thing that makes AYANEO devices more and more appealing over the years is their proprietary software called AYASpace. AYASpace offers on-the-fly configurations for the system that aims for something similar to Steam Deck's very own triple dot button. It is eGPU compatible and is rather interesting in iOS, though not my favorite, as it has a 3.5mm headset supporting microphone. That's fine. A micro SD reader, but also 3 USB-C ports. While the total amount of ports is great, not having at least one USB-A is kind of a letdown. It supports Bluetooth 5.2 and Wi-Fi 6. It has a fingerprint reader and RGB sticks accents, which looks absolutely fantastic in my opinion, and will be customizable using the AYASpace app. Now, I'll be honest, I find the Geek hard to recommend, especially now that the Win 4 is here. If anything, that device is for people who acquired loyal trust for the brand, but wish to keep costs at the possible lowest. But past that, I sincerely believe the Win 4 to be a better option overall. I will say this much though, I do believe the Geek will offer from a comfort position, potentially better immersiveness when gaming, but ever so slightly. And then the AYANEO 2 comes into play. The price jumps from $1,000 to $1,500, being the most expensive device on this list. Again, same CPU, GPU, same RAM, same storage configuration. It has the same 1200p panel as the Purple Geek model, 16 by 10 portrait, same battery, same supercharge, same range and weight, 680 grams to be exact. The analogs and triggers are both Hall sensor though, whereas on the Geek, AYANEO seems to imply that they might change them on the retail unit. The AYANEO 2, however, seems to have these provided into retail units as well. One thing setting the AYANEO 2 apart, and is in fact the only device in the PC handheld space to date to have that, is HD rumble. Effectively, the motors are the same as those found in Joy-Cons, the Switch Pro controller, and the DualSense controller from Sony, offering a more precise rumbling effect, which double downs as the sound tap technology that they advertise on their campaign, as HD rumble uses speakers. This can be leveraged to create more audio layers. So one rather confusing spec with the AYANEO 2 is the gyros capabilities. According to their campaign, there is a gyroscope in the body and the sticks. My take is one of two things. Either it has the same gyroscope as other devices, but also has conductive sticks to activate it as it is on the Steam Deck. That would be yet another way that AYANEO travels in rather uncharted territories except for Valve. Or take number 2 is that it is in fact 2 more gyroscopes for a total of 3 to combine readings and provide improved precision for gyro aiming, and etc. It's hard to know exactly which one it is or something else entirely, as the wording leaves room for interpretation. The rest of the device is absolutely identical to the Geek, same extra inputs, the same I/O, the same antennas, and the same extras. As per AYANEO, and fair warning, as we are dangerously approaching Apple type marketing here, this device, as well as the Geek, provides what is called baby sleeping position design ergonomics. I didn't make this up, it is on the campaign itself. The takeaway is that AYANEO took great care and attention to the ergonomics of the device, so they had to give it a name. Ironically, I have no problem believing that to be the case. It's the way it's presented that feels a bit off-putting is all. Making a device comfortable to hold is not a feature as much as it is a basic engineering principle, but I will admit that not every brand puts the kind of effort, so good on you, AYANEO, good on you. Assuming that they deliver on their promises, it lacks very little and features against even the likes of Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft. The jury is still out there as to if the implementations will be as thoroughly crafted, but I do appreciate that they are going for this market. I am fully invested in them pushing that envelope, as just like I am into vibration motors on controllers, I'm very much into anything that can effectively help me feel the games I play, even if just a tad more. Now, before we move away from AYANEO, please know that as of the release of this video, there will be very little time left to participate in their campaign. AYANEO is known to only sell through Droix and its own website, and is best assumed that prices will indeed go up considerably once the campaign is over. Food for thought. This leaves me with the fourth company and last device on this list, the Onexplayer 2. Much like GPD and AYANEO, Onexplayer has devices already in customers' homes. In fact, I have an OXP 1165 G7 not too far from me. Right, so the price varies from $900 to $1,300 US. So same CPU, GPU from AMD, the same RAM, same storage options. The first difference comes from a 1600p panel, 8.4 inch in size, with the second highest PPI on this list at 359. However, just like the Win Max 2, you'll find yourself lowering the render resolution more often than not, bringing the effective PPI to 270. Again, the key here is to find the balance that works best for you. It is a 16:10 portrait, and it has the second largest battery at 65.5 watt-hour, and it does support 100 watt supercharging. It is the second heaviest at 850 gram with controllers, or 700 grams without, which still makes it the second heaviest on our list even without. It has Hall sensor sticks and also triggers, making this device on par with AYANEO's, and has two vibration motors. Onexplayer advertises Armin Kardon tuning speakers. I advise taking that with a grain of salt. I've experienced firsthand terrible laptop speakers in so-called Armin Kardon certified tuning. It made it clear that Armin Kardon does not provide the speaker themselves, they simply tune whatever is in there. And well, you can tune a dump, but that does not make it great. If you tune a gem in the rough, you do unleash its potential. Now, which one between the two is in the Onexplayer? That's what we'll know with more and more reviews as they come about. I did hear a sample from existing reviews on YouTube, and I wasn't impressed, personally. It has a 6-axis in-body gyroscope, and like its subdivision-owned company, AOK Zoe, One netbook does have a proprietary software called Game Center to tweak on the fly, which is similar to what Aya's Space does. I do believe Aya's solution to be more developed at this point in time, and I'm being told that One netbook logs CDP, ultimately offering less flexibility to the end user on these devices. Also, it has a turbo mode button. It's not a turbo as old school gamers would think, but rather serves as a quick TDP switch. 15 watt when off and 28 watt when on. It's a nice addition, but ultimately one that wastes space, as this can easily be achieved through software, and the Onexplayer 2 is the only device to not have customizable LC and RC keys. I wish they would have prioritized that over a turbo button, but again, that's me personally. It is USB 4 compatible, has a 3.5mm headset with microphone support, has a micro SD slot, one USB-A and two USB-Cs, one up top, one at the bottom. It has a Bluetooth 5.2 and Wi-Fi 6E. What makes this device stand out the most is its removable controllers, as you would Joy-Cons on a Nintendo Switch. Well, almost. Here's the major difference. Those controllers are not battery powered, nor are they independently usable. You have to get a connector accessory that Onexplayer charges extra for, which will connect both sides to give you a wireless battery powered controller to use with your OXP2. This is cool and well paired with the device's sturdy kickstand, but just make sure to always have that accessory with you, as otherwise that feature becomes useless. OXP2 also has RGB accents. I am unsure at this point in time if it changes colors. I've only seen it orange and promo materials. For the extras, it is the only other device to support 4096 sensitivity active pen. The pen itself is sold separately. Talking about sold separately, there's also a magnetic keyboard and trackpad accessory. I have it myself. It can be useful in a pinch, but it ultimately is victim to bad design choices. The magnets are weak and it should have been able to hold over the screen while closed. It doesn't. This device is harder to recommend, but it does have this similarity of being a PC-based Nintendo Switch. It retains a strong gaming DNA and can indeed double down as a versatile device. It can be used as a tablet, as somewhat of a laptop solution, as a table mode, handheld, or even a docked solution. The issue I have is that while this device is claiming all those extra modes, it doesn't do it particularly well. Here is a few examples. The game console mode, yet there's no HDMI out. The laptop mode, what a missed opportunity to have the keyboard act as a clamshell. The tabletop mode, but the controllers need that extra module to work at all. For any of these so-called modes, you need to effectively prepare yourself greatly, impacting the quality of life aspect that it proposes. And to some extent, most of what is presented as a unique advantage can be done with every other devices on this list with just as much, if not better, tools at the end user's disposition. And that brings me to the end of this video. There are honorable mentions: the Onexplayer Mini 6800U, which is out already. It's more expensive by quite a lot, but it does seem to be a rather very pleasant device, all things considered. Then you have the 5 different low-key devices, which have far greater differences in the internals, offering options such as Intel's 8505 chip and many various AMD chips. But the reason why I'm not including them in this guide is simple. AYANEO is very silent and it's still unclear as to when these devices are going to be available, if at all. Another concern with AYANEO is there are so many SKUs for a brand new company. Too many in my opinion, and Odin didn't prove that they have logistics down to a T. Somehow I fail to see how they are going to pull this off, but time will tell. You also have the Inburnic Win 600. The one problem with this device is that it gets demolished in pretty much every aspect. Its internals is far weaker from a price point and not all that cheaper for it. In the right hands, it has its reasons to exist, but for a large majority, you are better off saving a little longer and going with a Steam Deck. And last but not least is the AYANEO Zui, which can be found on various retailer websites such as AliExpress. It's pricey and most likely a great device. It did have the advantage of being the very first PC handheld to market with the Ryzen 6800U, but nowadays, this device is gone and forgotten for the most part. Oof, that was a long one. So to anyone who stuck until the end, thank you very much. I'd be curious to know which of these devices you are leaning more into. Let me know in the comment box below. Now, some of you out there may be aware that I was one of the 3 winners from GPD's campaign for a Win 4, as well as the Retro Tech Dad and Garcia Arts. First and foremost, congratulations to the other winners, and thank you GPD for creating these opportunities for small content creators. And to every runner-up, I do hope there will be more opportunities in the future for others to win as well. But above all else, thanks to you guys, the community, the viewers, and the people in the comments. That victory is in good part because you decided to click on my videos to watch, and even potentially to like, comment, and subscribe. Because I've already contributed towards the campaign for a unit, I have decided to give back to the community in form of a giveaway. That's a Black Win 4 16 gigabytes with 1 terabyte configuration that a lucky member will win. I have to figure out how to run this giveaway, but stay tuned for more information in the coming days, weeks, once I establish the methodology. I most certainly hope this video was helpful and insightful. I'll be covering the GPD Win 4 and the AYANEO once I receive my unit, so stay tuned for that. And we are constantly expanding the coverage of gaming tech and gaming devices on this channel, so you know what to do if that speaks to you at all. All these devices sound great, but one solution that can be pretty reliable is streaming through your cell phone. And now that Backbone One released their new controller, that makes for an even smoother experience. Watch that one here for a hands-on video of that. Cheers!